Y'all, please help me welcome our panel. Let me start way over here. This first young man here, we're so very proud of him. His parents are here with us tonight. You can tell they raised him right, and he's just a really good, solid young man. He's a youth pastor. He's a youth activist. He has a lot to say, and we appreciate him being here tonight. Y'all give it up for my friend, Minister Kyle West, everybody. Give it up for Kyle West. This next young lady, you can check her out on Power 88. You can check her sometimes on the weekends, and you can even check her out on Wednesday nights on The Breakdown. And then, of course, she's a new mommy, everybody. We love her to death. Y'all give it up for Lady A.K. She's in the building. She has a lot on her mind. Lady A.K. McMorris. Let me see, who do I have here? This young man here, he's in charge of Nightlife out there on the Strip. He's with Caesers Entertainment. You guys ever want to talk about owning your own nightclub? You want to talk about how does the nightlife on the Las Vegas Strip really work? He's here with us tonight. Y'all give it up for my friend, Dwayne Morgan. Come on out here, Wayne. How you doing? Hey, man, some of us have aspirations of owning our own hotel, whether you want to own the Bellagio, whether you want to own the Wynn or Tropicana. This you right here, Dwayne. I know you were walking around see where your name at, huh? We got you. But this young lady here, when you talk about all of our resorts and our hotels and, you know, people getting approvals for their licenses or what have you, guess what? This is the queen of the night right here. She makes the decision. Y'all give it up for my girl. She's the Gaming Control Board chair of the board. Sandra Douglass-Morgan, everybody. That's right. Hello. And then, of course, we have this young lady right here. Man, she gets out here and she puts boots to the ground. She holds your feet to the fire. We appreciate her. And she's out there. She's with Plan. She's the executive director, everybody. Give it up for Laura Martin. Hey, Laura. And last but certainly not least, this young man here, he's a young entrepreneur. He's a youth activist himself. He has a lot to say, and we're very proud of him. He's homegrown also, too, a native of Nevada. We're very proud to have joining us tonight Mr. Devin Brooks, everybody. Y'all give it up for our panelists. Right. And then, y'all please do me a favor, because I'm so honored that these young men are here with us, and I hope their experience was real cool. And I want them to stand up. They're here with their chaperones tonight. But guess what? In our lives, everybody, how many of us are perfect? Anybody in the room perfect? Okay. All of us have come, we've all fallen short. And we've all made some mistakes, and we've had some setbacks in our lives. But just because we've had a setback in our life doesn't mean we don't have a comeback in our lives, right? These young men here, they're on their way. And I believe if we get behind them and we push them and we promote them and we expose them, that everything is going to be all right. Y'all, these are my little brothers from Spring Mountain Youth Camp. Y'all stand up and let everybody see. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. And I want to thank Jeff Jones and all my staff from DJJS. Thank you guys so very much for making the trek and bringing the boys down. We appreciate you so very much. I'm about to put one of you guys on the spot. You all just spend a moment with T.I. Which one of y'all going to come to the microphone, let this audience know, what was that experience like? Because I know he had a whole lot to say to you guys back there. You guys took pictures. Come on up to the microphone. I appreciate you even stepping up. Give him a round of applause. Oh, you want to come to the big mic. Well, come on in. No, excuse me. No. Come here. Now, you know you got to do what Mr. Weekly say, right? You come on stage. I like that. Why go to the little mic, right, Pastor, when you can go to the big mic? Tell everybody about your experience. Give me a fist bump. There you go.
Man, it was just crazy because, like, and it's crazy talking to all y'all in front of me right now. Like, it doesn't even feel real because, like, 6 hours ago, I was sitting in my bed reading a book, like, damn.
Excuse me, gentleman in the white, really? At least he stood up. Because I see a few of you that should have walked up here first. So don't do that. Give him the respect. Right? Thank you.
But it's just crazy because, like, we would have never thought today that we would have woke up and met, you know, T.I. Because, you know, to us, our lives feel so insignificant, and to him, he's like, it's T.I., you feel? So it's just crazy that he put his time, you know, which is like so valuable to just talk to us, trying to make an impact on our lives. You know, and that's crazy to me, because, like, I never would have thought that someone would have cared that much to want to speak to me or, you know, to my delinquents over there. You know, so it's just crazy. And I feel like God put me, you know, in this camp for a reason, even though at first I was like 6 months, damn. But now it's like, almost like, thank you. You know, I'm just grateful.
Give me one more of you. One more. And you can stay right there if you like. Give me one more, you guys. Come on. Come on. Listen, when I recognize y'all for football season and basketball season, everybody want to talk. Come on. Well, come on in. Come on. Come on. We're not going to deny you either. I appreciate this, y'all. And I appreciate you guys lifting them up, you guys, because that's what they need. They just need some encouragement, right? And I just believe it's enough power in this room. We can help these young boys turn this thing around.
All right, so look, I'm not used to be talking on stage or nothing, but it's just crazy how, like, you can meet somebody that's rich, and they really care a lot about you, and they'll let you know what's up. And it's like, he let me know that I could do a lot of stuff in life, and I ain't got to just always do something that's going to jail, no matter what it is.
Thank you. Thank you so much, young bro. Thank you. All right, everybody. It's that time. We again want to thank our team from Clark County. We want to thank our Public Information's Office. We want to thank them for helping us to live stream tonight. Want to send a big shout out to everybody over at Classic Jewel that's having a watch party. Thank you so very much for joining us tonight, and everybody who have the smartphones up and who are watching at home on Cox TV, Channel 4, Clark County Television, and again, Channel 3. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Y'all, we ready to get this conversation started. Y'all do me a favor. He's an actor. He's an author. He's a rapper. He's an award winner. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a philanthropist. And guess what? Yesterday, he announced he will be teaching at Clark Atlanta University. Y'all give it up. Make some noise for Mr. Tip Harris. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
What's going on? Well, thank you guys for, joining us here. This is a solution-based gathering, okay? I'm sure everybody here has had to bear witness to the travesties that are going on around the nation. And I'm sure that just like me, you're all outraged, you're a little confused, and you don't know what to do next, okay? So that's what we're here for, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna have a collection of thoughts. You guys ask questions. Our panelists are up here to help us figure all of this stuff out. We have Minister Kyle West. Thank you so much for sharing this moment here with us. Lady A.K. McMorris is here. Dwayne Morgan, brother. Dig your jacket, you know what I'm saying? You got a sharp jacket there. We have Sandra Douglass-Morgan. Thank you so much. Laura Martin. Hello. And Devin Brooks, sir. Now, everyone up here has their own level of expertise from some vantage point in the community. So we're all just going to dedicate our time and attention to kind of come up with some solutions, alternatives, some contingencies, instead of just, kind of looking around, wondering what's next, all right? That's all right with y'all? All right, cool. So how would you like to start?
Let's start off with this, Tip.
Okay.
Tell everybody everything that's going on in the country right now. I know that you and I were talking, and you and Mrs. Harris, you guys were over at in Minneapolis attending George Floyd's services.
Yeah.
And then I think yesterday, it was yesterday or the day before, you were over at Rashard Brooks' services.
Yeah.
This has had such a huge impact on many of us. Mm-hmm. And we've seen a lot of the outrage throughout the country and even right in Atlanta.
Sure.
What's the people in Atlanta doing like we're here tonight? We got a small sample of our residents here in Clark County that's here tonight to come to talk about solutions and strategies and what is it that we can do to move forward. What are you all telling your people in Atlanta? And then we're going to ask these panelists up here, what's their thoughts from their various professions on how do we move our agendas forward?
Okay, well, as far as Atlanta is concerned, the thing that, in my eyes, makes it so special, and I know you heard me call it Wakanda, and I meant that. And I tell you why. We inherited a utopia, if you will, of black entrepreneurship, black influence. People of color, no matter where you go in Atlanta, own, operate, are connected to businesses, to the Atlanta way. No matter what you need done, whether you need tickets to the Falcon game or you need to figure out how to get you a liquor license for your new restaurant you're about to open up. The Atlanta way is you pick up the phone, you call somebody you say, hey man, this is what I'm trying to get done. They say, oh yeah? Hold on man, let me call such and such and such. I think they know how to. And then they put you on the phone with somebody and then you end up getting done what you need to get done. That is the Atlanta way. Economic inclusion. You dig what I'm saying? In so many other places in this country, we don't have a say. We don't have a say in whether, how the laws are passed. We don't have a say in what the culture, how the culture is represented. And Atlanta is much different. But we are not perfect. We are not perfect. I found out the hard way right after I made that statement. The universe tends to have a way to show you, well, you don't know as much as I do. And the very next day after I made that statement, there were two college students that were yanked out of the car, tased, with their windows busted, handcuffed, traumatized by the Atlanta Police Department. Now, anywhere else, all we could do was just look at that and be furious about it. In Atlanta, I called Keisha, who's the mayor. Hey, Keisha, what is this? What's going on? I got you, Tip, and that's what she said. I got you, Tip. Listen, we own it. I got to watch all the body cams, see what's going on, and then I get back with you. You can't just do that anywhere else. And lo and behold, by the time I woke up the next morning, the officers were fired. Because she knew she is a product of the community that we trying to help. So all of these solutions and problems, the solutions to the problems that we're figuring out right here, she has just as much of an interest to do it. Now, that don't make her perfect, that don't make our city perfect, but it gives us an advantage to lead the way for the rest of the country to kind of say, okay, well, if Atlanta can handle it like that, then that's how we need to position ourselves. So that's kind of how we're dealing with it.
So with that being said, Kyle, let's start with you, man. From a young person's standpoint, I know you're a youth activist, and Tip, he's been out there, he's been using his platform. He's a young minister as well.
Amazing.
But Kyle, what's happening with the youth? What's your generation feeling right now, man?
Well, I can say for myself, and number one, thank you so much for the invite to this amazing platform. I'm honored to be here with you all and these amazing panelists. I will say that this is the generation of them that are more active in terms of media presence and also being out in the streets protesting and using our platforms like never before to bring awareness. I don't know if everybody in the room knows about it, but we are the generation of Black Twitter. And Black Twitter is extremely dangerous for good purposes. And what is now happening is we are collectively using our voices to bring change. You mess with us, you got to deal with Black Twitter. You do us wrong, you got to answer to Black Twitter. And the culture that is being created by us is a united front that has realized the power of, watch this, we're in quarantine, but you still my sis. And since we alike and since we get each other, we're gonna use our voices, we're gonna raise some noise, and we're gonna make sure that whatever needs to be changed is gonna be changed. And so I am an avid member of Black Twitter. I've also been down to protests. I've prayed with several protesters, spoken with other fellow youth activists in the city and older activists and people in political positions and things. And it's really been amazing to see how many young people are saying, you know, man, I'm willing to be a part of this, I'm willing to fight, and I'm willing to see change take place.
I think that's a very important point that you just touched on. This generation is, I think that you guys have pretty much said enough is enough.
Oh yeah, it's done.
And I think that we have to embrace that. Yeah. We have to find new ways, creative ways to support you guys' efforts. And right now we're trying to figure out what to do, but the one thing we know we can't do is nothing.
That's right, that's right.
You know what I'm saying? So I commend each and every one of you guys, all of you who take your time and your platforms, and you just put effort and energy to the forefront, just trying to institute some level of change. That is extremely important, because we can't get nowhere if we don't have some level of change take place.
Lauren Martin, what's your thoughts on what we're talking about right now? You're one of those ones, you have real boots on the ground, you get out there and you raise a whole lot of hell, but you get results. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you have to, especially in this moment we're in now is a watershed moment for change. It's not just the police, which is the focal point, but it's an opportunity for all of our communities to decide for ourselves, what does safety look like for us? Do you feel safe knowing that every high school in Clark County has 2 police officers and 0 social workers, and many times no counselors? And so this is an opportunity to make sure that when we are in the streets, we're also taking it back and understand that the people who put those officers in the streets, the people who decided to build youth camps or more jails, that was something given to them by an elected official who has power over our tax money, who decides where that investment goes. Do we want that investment to be in police, who can harass us, who can kill us, who can do things that make a situation escalated? Just yesterday in Craig Ranch Park, there was a suicidal man who was shot and killed. Is that how the situation could have ended up? And so this is really our moment. This is an unprecedented time. Even Angela Davis said this is an unprecedented time. She is amazed by the amount of activity and progress that people are making. And I want people to harness that and don't hold up. Don't be satisfied because one police officer was arrested or somebody lost their job, because we can't fool ourselves into believing that all of these problems are solved because one man went to jail. He's part of an entire system that made him believe that he is able to lynch us in broad daylight on camera without even flinching. And I also want to lift up why I have this platform. It's also important to remember the people who are directly impacted, the people who are in the streets toe-to-toe with police, or activists who are providing mutual aid and care. We need to also support them and take care of them too. And I also want to lift up the Las Vegas Freedom Fund, who has been bailing people out. We have bailed out dozens and dozens of protesters and other people who have been kidnapped for the police. And it's throwing it back to what our ancestors used to do. We used to pool our money and buy our freedom. And that's what the Vegas Freedom Fund is doing. And I also want to recognize, too, why we need your help. There's people whose bail we've paid, but they're still being held hostage in jail. We want to make sure that the police are not retaliating against us because we see this activity. And the only way that we can hold them accountable is still being unified with each other.
Excellent.
Once again, I want to tell you thank you so much, Commissioner, for this platform. I think my ideals on this situation is a little bit different than most. I think
ultimately what we all need to be saying is that black economy matters. The only thing that's stronger than racism in this country is capitalism. The reason that Atlanta can do the things that they do is because Tip got money. He can contribute to that campaign. He can make sure that he contributes to that assemblywoman or that assemblyman senator to make sure that that policy is to be able to move forward. We can't take what we've done historically. We marched in Selma. We rioted in 60-something. My great-grandfather got killed in the Ross riots. My mom and when I was a kid, we went through Rodney King. Just went through Ferguson and some Skittles. Just went with something on the neck, and now we're going through something in Wendy's. We ain't got enough guns. We don't have the organization to be able to fight. And I'm looking at it from a race perspective, but thinking of it us for being able to benefit for us to get the equal rights that we truly deserve. It starts with us being able to get proper loans from our banks. Us being able to get investors to believe in us without trying to degrade us and tell us that we ain't what we need to be. This is the change that we need to make. Money is what brings in. I went to the last 3 legislative sessions. I done participated in things on the federal level, state level, and local level, and I'm not saying that to brag because honestly it's been depressing. It ain't fun, it ain't cool, and a lot of times you running around talking to out of shades every day trying to see if your bill's gonna get passed so you can try to have a positive impact on your people. But when you start to realize what you up against in this system as far as how this pyramid works, which I call the pyramid of prosperity, where you're dealing with legislation and businesses and lobbyists, it's not necessarily about the people, it's about the politics. And if we ain't got no businesses which support the politicians, which support the majority of the stuff that we are affected by, we're gonna be setting our youth up for the same heartbreak that we've dealt with. And that's us getting out there protesting, trying to get something equal when it's never about the capital. The capital is where the power is.
I think that's a very important point. I think that's a very important point because just as much as votes count for elections, every time you wake up and go into a store and pay your money for something, you're casting a vote for that corporation, okay? You just made an excellent point. Corporations support politicians, all right? So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, Target, right? Okay, let's go with Target. Target, based in Minneapolis, were a large contributor. They partnered and worked closely with the Minneapolis Police Department. Okay, if the Minneapolis Police Department can't understand why someone shouldn't be kneeled on for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, ultimately bringing them to their demise, if the police won't give us any understanding, okay, I tell you what, stop spending money at Target. Stop spending money at Target. When Target see their quarterly numbers are dropping, and it's because you guys are in cahoots with these guys. That is the way students in Atlanta at the AU Center, they stopped buying Coca-Cola. They stopped flying Delta because those corporations were actively involved or in cahoots with people in South Africa that were for apartheid. It was that action that was taken by the students, among other things, of course. But that is the way that corporations lean on politicians on behalf of the people. There's no reason any of us should be out here spending money with corporations who don't consider our concerns and the needs of our communities. If you don't want us to be treated equally, if you aren't on the side of right, then we don't need to spend our hard-earned money in your establishment. I think that is our power. $1.35 trillion is what, collectively, what we spend yearly. $1.35 trillion, and it increases every year. Now, that kind of money can move things. You dig what I'm saying? As he said, capitalism is probably the only thing, the strongest racism in this country. My brother David Banner told me two things. He said, man, there's only two ways you can affect change within white supremacy: the loss of life and the loss of finance. Now, as you mentioned, we may not be as equipped with weaponry or even as trained as others may be, but the one thing we do have on our side, God only gonna fight with one of us. You dig what I'm saying? And I don't know what you know about God, but if he anything like I've been taught, as long as, and I've seen him take place in my life, he gonna fight on the side of right. And if we got God, then we don't need no weapons, we don't need nothing. All we gotta do is show up with more faith than fear. And that's what y'all doing. So I appreciate it.
All right, let's talk to our folks from the resorts side of this thing here. We got one who he heads up Nightlife. And Dwayne, explain what Nightlife means. And then Mrs. Morgan, I want you to talk about the gaming control, but what does that really mean? Put a face on that thing for those of us who may not understand the level that you're at here in the state of Nevada.
All right, thanks for having me. You guys hear me? Okay, so thanks for having me. Again, Dwayne Morgan. I've been in the community over 30 years. I came here in the military, fell in love with Vegas and stayed. I'm originally from the original Wakanda, which is the south side of Chicago, okay, where I can totally relate to how we functioned. And, you know, before I get into that, you know, one of the things when I was out of Chicago, I had never interacted with any non-minority person in my life. All of my teachers were black. Most of the schools in Chicago are named after black heroes. You know, I was just totally grew up in a neighborhood, stores are all black. So when I went into the military, you know, interacting with non-minorities was something new to me that I hadn't understand. And I'm gonna segue into why I think that's important, that you know, have all these interactions and learn about different things. But as I went through, I was in Vegas, I was on the police department. I'm retired from Metro, so I can, you know, speak to those type of questions. I spent a career on Metro. And one of the things that impacted me there, you know, when you're on the police department, you kind of have two ways you're going to go. You're either going to go the administrative way, become a sergeant, lieutenant, captain, or an investigator. And I always had dreamed of being a homicide investigator, but there was actually a lieutenant over that section that said, as long as I'm here, there'll never be a minority in that department. So I fought against that, and I was the first minority in that department, you know, during modern times. But what I want to say most, one of the things I believe in, change comes from within. You know, if the police department is a problem, the only way you're going to fix it is being a part of the solution internally. So I always advocate for more minorities to be on the police department. Because believe me, if you're in a car with a person who has some ill thoughts, you'll at least be there to voice right or wrong. You know, you need to actually be on the playing field to affect change. So those are one of the things that I hope the young people, you know, really think about. And also, it's a great financial career. You know, you're gonna get that lottery check when you're done for the rest of your life. So it's a, you know, it's a nice way. So, you know, those are some things. Whatever you're gonna do, we need people on the inside who will stand up and voice their opinion about what really matters. So my position at Caesars, I oversee our nightlife, which is regulated by the Gaming Control Board. So there are regulations that have to be abided by, and a lot of people don't realize that you know, there's regulations for everything. And again, having diverse personalities within the decision-making process. You know, if you're gonna have hip-hop on the Strip, most of the people who see that genre, who's in control of that genre, is not necessarily gonna be inviting of that. So if you don't have people in places that can give a diverse opinion, it grossly affects what you're gonna be seeing on the Strip, right? So we always wanna be involved, and you know, the regulations came in place because right now nightlife generates as much or more money than actual slot machines do. So you're talking about a market that has a lot of power, and that market is generated by the young people. So you should definitely be involved in that market. So change comes from the inside, that's what I believe.
Thank you, of course, Commissioner Weekly, for inviting me and for you Mr. Harris, for coming to Las Vegas. So I'm the chairwoman of the Nevada Gaming Control Board, and we regulate and license anyone who wants to have a gaming license in the state of Nevada. So that goes from someone who wants to run a slot machine at a 7-Eleven or a convenience store, to slot machines, obviously we have them in supermarkets, all the way to the strip resorts, like Mr. Morgan, where he works for Caesars. And the licensing process, you have people who are actually executives who are going to make day-to-day decisions and influence the affairs of the actual property. We license them, and we also register gaming employees, and those are employees who actually work in the casinos that maybe are dealers that actually deal with the game itself. And so we regulate that entire arena, and so it is obviously very important to the state of Nevada. Obviously, we all know here that gaming is our #1 industry that actually is our biggest source of tax revenue. But to Mr. Morgan's point, you all are going out and spending your money and staying at hotels and going to nightlife. When you go to those properties, are you looking at their corporate social responsibility programs? Are you looking at their executives? Looking at their board of directors? Do they care about, they may have shared a Black Lives Matter hashtag, but are they actually embracing those own policies within their company? And so I also wanted to talk a little bit about the kind of economic inclusion discussion. I've been the chair of the Gaming Control Board since January of 2019. Before that, I was on the actual commission. And I'm law trained, I'm a lawyer, and I was also the first African-American chair of the Gaming Control Board. It's 2020, we should be past first. But Nevada is in a different situation, and I want to applaud, Commissioner Weekly, obviously, for his leadership, not just for policy at a local level, but also at the community level. We have our first Black Attorney General, Aaron Ford. We have our first Black Speaker of the Assembly. These are people that are in office right now. They're all first, but they all care about what every single person in this room has to say. And that's truly politics aside. And so I think to Pastor West's point, I'm a Generation Xer, and I think we were happy being one of a part of a bigger, part. Oh, there's one of us here, there's one woman here, there's one African American there, there's a Black person now there. This generation says, no, it's not just gonna be 1 or 1% or 5%. We want to actually overhaul the entire system. And I appreciate and I love that courage, but we need to mobilize. We need to understand who is actually in certain positions to actually effectuate change. Police departments and chiefs are actually appointed, outside of the sheriff who was elected, in Nevada, they're appointed by local governments. So your county commissions or your city councils. Our voter turnout for municipal races are embarrassingly low. That may change in 2022 based on legislation that was passed, but are we focusing on that, or is everyone just focused on 2020 and the presidential races and the U.S. Senate races? The people that affect your day-to-day lives are local elected officials, and I know that because I used to be the city attorney over the city of North Las Vegas. People aren't showing up to public comment. I think I met you at a public comment, actually. But people don't show up to those. They don't vote. They don't engage. And those are the people that really affect your day-to-day lives. So when you're looking at whether it be police reform or economic investment, Nevada is at a point where we have, and I won't rant too long, but we were at 1/3 of unemployment. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're at 1/3, now 1/4 of unemployment. And we're at a period of social unrest. We are being stripped down as a state and as a community. It's gonna be now where we look at where do we want these resources to go? What is important to Nevada? What is important to Clark County? If you care and you wanna prioritize social justice issues, social service, this is the time to do it, because Nevada is bound, stricken to its bone. We want, obviously, gaming to revive. We want other industries to also revive. But I'll just say this. Since I've been chair, I've only seen 2 African Americans that have been before me for a gaming license. In a place where 60 to 70% of our strip is governed by publicly traded corporations. And those 2 licensees were for what we call restricted locations. So those are smaller locations, they're not casinos. And that's a shame to me if I'm most of the time outside of another board member, the only Black person in the room. So be more engaged, understand where that power is located, and you have to be educated on these issues. Twitter is great. It definitely brings, even though I've been attacked on it several times, it definitely brings notice and awareness, but you have to understand the issues, take the time to educate yourself so you can actually effectuate the change that you want, whether it be in the voting booth or in the halls of the assembly, like Mr. Brooks mentioned.
Mr. Morgan, if I may ask you a question, just, being from the police force. How can we deal with the psychological abuse of power that comes with that authority and that position? I researched, well, when I say research, I watched the movie. But after I saw the movie, I actually read up about what I'm about to tell you. It's called the Stanford Experiment. The Stanford Experiment happened in the 70s, and a professor at Stanford put an ad in the paper. He wanted some subjects for an experiment. Nobody knew what the experiment was. He arbitrarily picked 12 people and divided those 12 people into odds and evens, and he took a hallway in Stanford and turned it into a prison hall, right? So half of the subjects for the experiment were prisoners, and the other half were policemen or corrections. Okay, so it was supposed to last 5 days. By the second day, the people who were in the corrections section were treating the people who were incarcerated for the experiment like they had really done something wrong. They were drunk on that power. They said things like, well, you should have thought about that before you did what you did to get you in here. Dude, I go to Stanford. Okay, and the experiment had to be cut short because one of the, and also there was evidence that Stanford students could not read the same way. They did not do math the same way. Their confidence was shot because of how they were being treated by their counterparts who just arbitrarily ended up in the group that were police. One of them escaped and tried to kill himself because it was so egregious. If that can happen to Stanford students in 2-3 days, how do policemen check themselves and each other when they become drunk on the power and authority that they abuse consistently?
Very good question, and you know, it's an honest question that people have to deal with, because even though I'm retired from the police department, a card-carrying retiree, I still get nervous when the police pull me over, okay? I mean, it's just real. And, you know, one of the things I think that affected the police department a lot is when they kind of made a shift in the mentality that, you know, they wanted a more educated police department, where they started looking for police officers with degrees and so on and so forth, when, to me, policing is a community activity. You know, probably, you know, way back in the day, most police officers were from the military. So they were used to interacting with a lot of various people that they might not have ever met. And I think one of the biggest challenges, especially, you know, I can speak to the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, is that many of the officers that's working in neighborhoods that's predominantly people of color, they don't necessarily have any other interaction in that community other than their job. And when they're hired on, because they haven't come from an environment where they had to interact with, you know, quote unquote, aggressive people or, you know, people dealing with conflict, you can't really be a nail manicurist one day and say, oh, I'm gonna get on the police department because it pays well, and go from being a nail manicurist to going to a domestic violence call, a graveyard by yourself. So when a police officer generally arrive on a call, if they don't feel confident in their actions, then they're gonna overstep that psychological edge where they're probably gonna say, hey, you're gonna go to jail if you don't cooperate, or, you know, call for more units. And that's where I just see where policing is getting, you know, way out of hand, is that, you know, we don't have that community policing, you know, where they used to have beat cops that walked through the neighborhoods and got to know all the...
Like a residence program.
Right, where people in that neighborhood
Right.
interacting. Because I know some of the, you know, some cops who, you know, it's almost like a badge of honor to work on the west side. You know what I mean? It's like, man, one day you're gonna be on the west side and you better be on top of your game now, because when you get on the west side, you know, things are gonna be like this. So they're going in with a mentality that's already pre-programming them to think they got to act differently than where they act in other places. So that's, a large percentage of the problem.
Well, systemically, do we think that the way policemen police the community is a reflection of the benefits that the privatized prison industry gets from inmates who produce free labor for them? Could one say that people are making money? Every prison you go to has a commodity. Every prison you go to does something. Some make mattresses, some make furniture, but every prison you go to makes something. The things that they make are sold by corporations at fair market value. So basically, prisons are sweatshops. So what happens if you if everybody just get out of jail today? Ain't nobody else to make my furniture. Now I got to start paying people. Y'all better get out there and lock some more people up. Is there any correlation, sir?
Now, I can honestly say there is no correlation in that fact, but I would tell people to educate yourself on the 13th Amendment. Okay?
The 13th Amendment that says slavery is abolished unless imprisoned. They have been undermining freedom from the very concept. From like, when you institute an amendment to the Constitution that is supposed to bring about freedom and liberty to liberate a people, but then you undermine that with, okay, now if you get locked up, you could be a slave again. Like, is there a coincidence that we have 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's prison population? You don't think that got nothing to do with the money that's being made from these corporations? I mean, I think that's why. I think that's why policemen are so aggressive. I mean, of course, that and just white supremacy. You dig what I'm saying? I don't think, because a lot of us are saying it's the training. It's the training. It ain't the training. We see that they know exactly how to arrest people and handle themselves professionally. We see it every time they deal with white people. So I think the issue is why you can't deal with us that way. And another thing I want to ask you, I'm sorry that you're the only policeman or ex-policeman up here, I'm sorry, but I have a lot of questions. Why is it that policemen get to rest within the impunity of their actions when they say they were afraid or they feared for their life? Okay, well, it seems to me when you decide you want to be a policeman, I think the first thing on the list is courage, right? Bravery, you know what I'm saying? So why do policemen get a pass when they scared, but if you have a citizen who hasn't been trained and never went to no academy, he ain't prepared himself to be on the west side, you know what I'm saying? He just happened to be living, coming and going. But if he come in contact with a policeman, he's not allowed to be afraid and make the wrong move. But the policeman can be afraid and make the wrong move with impunity. How is that?
Well, to answer that question, it goes back to what we said earlier, is that if we don't have more people within the system, because again, remember, he's only taking you to jail. He's not going to be the prosecutor.
If we're lucky, he's taking us to jail.
But he's not going to be the prosecutor. He's not going to be the judge. So therefore, if you have more fair representation within the total system, it can be rectified. Because if you notice, most times when you're in a courtroom setting, it's probably going to be the defendant. If the defendant of color, there's not going to be a whole lot of other people of color who's going to have a final outcome on the decision in that court.
I think, too, I know that obviously there's been a lot of discussion about training, but there's a lot of subjectivity that goes into this as well, right? I always give the example of there could be 5 people speeding, but if just because one's pulled over and they're getting a ticket, that doesn't mean they didn't commit the crime, right? They still committed the crime, but why is that one being pulled over? Why are our communities being over-policed? Why are there more rotations in certain zip codes in Southern Nevada and not in others? Why are there more parking infractions, which could lead to warrants, which then could lead to jail time in different zip codes? Those are the type of discussions that need to be happening, because that's all discretion-based, right? It doesn't negate the fact that someone may have committed the crime, but why are certain zip codes or areas or people being targeted more? Those goes back to the implementations of laws, and who are we electing to implement those laws? Something is very simple. I do agree with Mr. Morgan that more African Americans need to be in law enforcement, but how do we get there? One, it talks about recruitment. People usually know someone who knows someone that can help someone, even though it's a public process. Two, we need to talk about not just recruitment, but retention and promotion. When I became on board, I will be the first to say there are not a lot of African Americans that actually work in the Gaming Control Board. Do I think it was the malicious intent of my predecessors to not do that? No, but I simply said, look, when we have hiring panels, make sure there's someone of color or a woman on those panels. No one pushed me back. It was like, okay, so it wasn't a resistance to it, but you need to put people in positions of power to be told to be able to influence the change that we want to see. And all of that goes back to a lot of subjectivity and interpretation go into these laws. And we know they're not being objectively applied. So the people that can make those decisions, make sure that they're feel the same way you do when it comes to community policing and things like that.
Let me get AK in on this conversation. Hello, AK. How you doing, sis? All right. I know each week. Did you say Will?
I'm doing well.
Oh, you're doing well. How you doing? So each week you get a chance to hear a lot of your callers call into you all's show. Based on what you've heard just now, and you heard Tip just kind of vent his frustrations as it relates to the process and what our community have seen. What's your thought on this conversation so far, and what have you been hearing from your listeners on your show?
Well, I find this conversation very interesting, especially as we have one of, in my opinion, two of our best elected officials that I can lay my eyes on right now, Commissioner Lawrence Weekly and Senator, I'm gonna keep calling her that, Dina Neal in the building. One thing that I've gotten from the radio, and this is kind of off of what our listeners say, because I have the privilege by working for Power 88 to be in a lot of these different rooms where these types of conversations happen before elected officials are actually elected. Unfortunately, the turnout doesn't look like this. When I spoke with Commissioner Weekly, I did make it clear to him, I'm not thinking about Ramon Pitcher. When I spoke with Commissioner Weekly, and I was explaining to him, as he was saying, so many people were trying to get in on this event, and he was like, AK, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You know, we have to adhere to social distancing guidelines and all of these things, and all these people wanna come. And I stopped him and I said, this ain't a meet and greet for TI. This is a community discussion for us to lay down what it's supposed to look like for our future and the future of our community. For the people, all of the events that Commissioner Weekly has put on, can we actually say that his phone was blowing off the hook if he wasn't giving away bicycles and toys and Halloween candy? No. We see the same old faces at all of the same events, and we're not chipping at what we need as far as the big community, these numbers. You talk about spending dollars, but all those people that have power over those dollars don't share this same thought process. They don't have our same ideals in place. I bring up Dina Neal because the rooms that I've sat in and I watch her, I always call it the Dina Neal face, because she looks like she's been fighting so long and she's so tired. Why is she tired? Because in a room like this, if we showed up when she's trying to get her bills passed, if we showed up like this, the way that everybody gathered at City Hall to get Michelle Fiore, get rid of her, meanwhile, Councilman Cedric Cree is the only brother that sits there. And he got to sit on there with all of those white people and then try to talk about black people. Commissioner Weekly sits in between nothing but white people. And we don't show up to any of those meetings to back him up. To go, no, he's not crazy. No, Dina Neal's not crazy. Councilman Cree is not crazy. No, they're right. They're speaking the truth. This is what we need. And we don't show up and participate. We talk about holding our elected officials accountable and watching who we vote for. But we don't understand is once we vote for them, we don't just throw our hands up and go, now you do it. The work is not done. The work legit just started. When you get your candidate in there, it's not just, okay, I did it, now what you got for us? It's actually stand behind that candidate. Go with them. Devin Brooks is making a very valid point. How many of us have gone to Carson City? All of the people that have youth organizations and things like that, we're not packing those babies on buses and vans and taking them up there so they understand what this process looks like. We're not fighting so that our students learn this type of stuff in school instead of trying to come to a community center to learn this when it's too late. All of these things are important. Everything that everyone here has said falls under policy, legislation, voting. We don't even look at the banner to see what logos and emblems are on for the candidates that we're voting for. You vote for them because their names sound cool, and meanwhile they got the logos of all the people, all the organizations you hate, saying that they back this candidate. We, like to Mrs. Morgan's point, we're all sitting here ready for 2020, get Trump out. We so worried about getting Trump out, and we didn't worry about keeping Congressman Horsford in office the first time.
Well, all righty then. Okay. Okay, yes.
And I think she's touching on something that's very, very necessary, and I don't want us to overlook what it is that you just shared because it's very powerful. There is a serious issue we're having in America as a whole. People in position who have taken their experience in position and are overlooking facts that are found in free things. Like we're in the age of information. The reality of it is we have a lot of people right now in positions who aren't watching these documentaries, who aren't reading books, who aren't taking the time out to see what is really happening when it comes to what's taking place in these prisons with this big spending and the fact that it really is a war out there when it comes to black lives and trying to incarcerate black men and women on purpose because go back in history, we have always been the best workers. And I think a lot of times what we have to do is we have to realize that it needs to become necessary, like you're talking about, it needs to become necessary for before you get into a position of power, we can get as many black people as we want in a police uniform or in a legislative seat, but if people are undereducated on what's really going on, you're just going to have ignorance in the form of a black body, and they're going to be controlling a seat. And so what we need to begin to do is doing a widespread education time where we're really informing people of the real war with private prisons, how many companies are really behind this stuff, and like we're talking about, really migrating our dollar a lot better. Because until we get educated and in position, we're going to continue to operate from the standpoint of, well, that's not my experience. I ain't never seen that before. And just because it's not your experience, that don't mean it's not true. I've been teaching people that in my services, you cannot negate what people have experienced because your life is different. That's what grace is about. That's what we really are here for, to understand that we all have a life that is worth living, and we all need to be, watch this, treating each other with respect and realizing what you went through is real, what we're fighting is real, and until we embrace that, we're not going to be able to move forward. We have to embrace that.
That boy there, Tip, look at that boy there. He take after his daddy up there. Go ahead. Hey, Tip, earlier before you came out, we had an opportunity to meet a lot of entrepreneurs in the room. Okay. And as we talk about solutions here tonight, everybody, I hope the takeaway is that economic empowerment is truly a solution.
Definitely.
Getting engaged and getting involved is definitely a solution. Sure. I'd be remiss if I didn't allow any of you guys that have a question, whether it be for Tip or whether it be for any one of these persons on the panel, if you make your way to that microphone right there, please come on up and ask your questions. I want to give enough time before we have to tune out. We got this team here from Clark County that's streaming live. We're live on TV4. And there are viewers at home. I know Dante Scott and his team, they posed a couple questions here. Chris over here from our Public Information's office, he is taking questions off the internet. I have a question here, Tip, I want to ask here from Dante Scott. It says, and any one of you panelists can answer this, how can we realistically be compliant with safety regulations in the workplace post-COVID, when we live in a city that thrives from tourism, gaming, hospitality, and nightlife? And maybe that might hit you two there. Okay, that's question number one. Yes, go ahead, please.
Well, I think that obviously there's health and safety guidelines that have been issued, whether if it's at a gaming property. Gaming property, all of the requirements are online. Obviously, social distancing, mask, require personal protective equipment. Hand sanitizer is obviously required at every gaming property. I can speak to that. Nightclubs are closed now, and I'm sure Dwayne knows that. Nightclubs and conventions and anything regarding mass gatherings is defined by the CDC is closed. In Nevada, we're still at a limitation of 50 or less for private or public gatherings. But it's really important to, I know we've said it over and over again from the CDC and Health and Human Services, you have to wash your hands, you have to keep your distance. There is a level of individual responsibility that's going to come into play. We do thrive off tourism, and so it is going to be a balance of, obviously we're in a health crisis, but knowing that 450,000 Nevadans work in the hospitality industry, and like I mentioned earlier, unemployment numbers are unfortunately staggering, so we need to make sure when they get back to work that they're done in a safe environment, and hopefully the governor's directive today requiring masks in all public areas is definitely continues that attempt to make Nevada safe.
Sure. Please.
Hi.
Hey.
My name is Braylon Lombard. I am a native of Las Vegas. I currently reside in Brooklyn as a U.S. history teacher and as a curator, but I'm hoping to bring that back here, right? And my question is, we've heard about voting and all of these things, getting people in places, and I want to follow up with the education piece, right? We're number 43 in this nation, but we have a $1 billion industry happening in gaming. And so as you two have the seat in these high positions of power, I wanna know, because the change in policing, economy, all of these things start with the belief, right? And it starts with this ideological approach, and we need abolitionist teaching in our schools. So how are you advocating for the gaming board's monies and dollars that are being poured into the gaming system to be allocated into Clark County School District, specifically informed as per pupil CAPTCHA?
And Tip, she graduated from Clark Atlanta University.
Spelman
Oh,
College.
Spelman, my bad. Oh, Spelman, okay, as well as Kim Bailey Terrell.
Thank you for going back to the AUC.
It's all good.
I love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
You know, just real quickly, the casino industry, they're all capped on what their donations are. We obviously have lobbyists and special interest groups, but they all have, again, it's going to go to your elected officials to make sure that that's part of their platform, that what they're interested in. But on the casino level, we're all capped at it's an evenly distributed donation. So your elected officials are going to more or less put before where money can be allocated.
So we're regulators. We collect the tax dollars. We don't set the tax rate. So it's 6.344%. That would be an issue for the legislature to change. And I know there's some petitions that are going around to increase that. But the Gaming Control Board actually regulates the gaming industry. We don't set the tax policy. We just collect the dollars. We're the regulators.
Are you able to provide us with this information? I think one
Absolutely.
thing that we're missing from this is the education piece.
Yeah.
We should definitely, as a community, be informed of these types of resources, or even of the state, our representatives who support these things and who don't. I can find it because I go digging for it, but as a community, we all need to understand.
Hey, Braylon, before you leave, see Dina, turn around right there. Look down, that lady waving at you. Please introduce yourself to her. She's a state legislator. And I can also turn you on to some of those that's sharing education, because there's going to be a big petition. I know that there's someone drawing up a BDR, a bill draft request this coming session to have that number increase as it relates to education, and that'd be something excellent for you to be a part of. Okay?
And she's such a spitfire, baby. While you at it, I love you, and I love you found your path, and because we need everybody to figure out what their role is, and you know what yours is. Baby, find the weed money, please. Please, while you doing that, please find the weed money.
I got you.
They made us vote yes on 2, told us that it was for our babies, and we ain't seen a dime of
I
it
agree.
for our students. Can you just do that? Is it okay? All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Braylon. Thank you so much.
Can I add to that, Commissioner?
Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
So I just wanted to add to, if you look at a pie chart of where all of our state's money comes from, about 2/3 comes from gaming. Yeah. And that's the reason why we're in the budget deficit we are in now, because we depend so much on an industry that depends on tourism. But what we also need to look at is who doesn't pay or who is given exemptions. There is a tax called a room tax that pays for education. We've asked before to increase that tax, but have been told no, but we did increase that tax to buy the Raiders a new football stadium. We also have to look at the mining industry, who has a clause in our Constitution that keeps their taxes that they pay below a certain amount. And on top of that, from what they owe us, they're also able to take deductions. And for business owners in here, they get to deduct things like paid sick leave. Do you all get to deduct that? The cost of medical, if your employees have an emergency. So we also have to look at what our state gives away. We've had a special session for Tesla, for Faraday, for the Raiders, for Amazon. What are we doing for our kids? It seems like we're always pulling out all the stops to help some CEO get their next paycheck, but we're not planning for the next generation.
And Braylon, this is, very good. This is Progressive Alliance Leadership of Nevada. And you can learn a lot about the bills that they fight for and a lot of the different issues that they advocate for. So please get to know Laura as well. A wealth of knowledge and information. Thank you very much. Sir.
My name is Darius Logan. I'm a corporate chef for Distill, a local bar.
Darius, pull the mic up so you don't have to bend over. You can take it off the stand. Yes, sir.
So my question would be more so for our panel, and Tip, you also can elaborate on this. When do we get back to the connection from you guys' generation or older generation to the millennials and the younger ones? Because I feel like it takes a village, and I'm a native here. I'm 28 years old, and I haven't really seen too much of giving back to the community in the sense of teaching us how to vote. Showing us how to be acclimated back into society. I was a person who went through Hope for Prisoners, if anybody knows what that is, and I was a one-time offender. I knew how to do a resume, but there were people in there that didn't know how to do resumes, didn't know how to acclimate back into society, don't know about entrepreneurship, building a business, anything like that. So what things do we have in place here locally that will teach the next generation how to get it like you guys? I hear, you want us to come out and vote and come out and support our politicians, but we don't even know who our politicians are. So do we research that ourselves, or is there something that we actually have that you guys have to let us know who's out there? So that's my question.
Oh, thank you so much, my brother. How old are you, King? How old are you?
And Devin,
I'm 28.
28 years old. Okay, so we're not too far from each other, but far enough. I'm the last of the landline generation. I'll say this, I'm not from Las Vegas. I'm born and raised in St. Louis. I didn't move to Las Vegas till I was about 24 years old, which means that I would walk right past Dina Neal and I know who she was. I had no idea where the Pearson Center was located. So yes, in a day and age where you don't have to wait 2 weeks to get your pictures back from the Walgreens, in a day and age where you don't have to dial numbers and turn a circle, and if you mess up on the last number, you got to start all over. In a day and age where you don't have one cord for a phone that goes all the way upstairs and downstairs and outside again, yes, we do expect you to do your homework. We do expect you to do research, my brother. You live in an information age. You carry a computer on you at all times. This is not a phone, this is a computer. A phone is the thing that when my mama got mad, she wrapped a cord up and whooped me with it. This is a computer right here. So we do. I would also like to say, Power 88 is the people's station. We are the people's station where we are one. That's all we do is pump information. Half of y'all turn the dial because we're not playing music. We are talking, we are educating you, we are informing you, we are bringing out calls to action. Yes, we expect you to do your own homework, but a lot is being given to you as well. There's a flyer for this event. There's a flyer for every event. Every time any of these elected officials is doing something, there is a way to see it on social media. So yes, we do. We do expect you to go to ballotpedia.com and see who's running in your district. We expect all of those things because guess what? We had to do it too. This is what the work looks like, my brother. Everybody has a role. Everybody has a part. And none of us gets to sit back and say, well, you do all of that for me and then bring it back to me. I'm going to bring you what you don't have that you can't get for yourself. That's what I'm gonna bring you. But what you can get for yourself, save me the time, King, and go and get it. And maybe you'll pick up some new information on the way, and we can build on that.
Yeah. I totally agree with Lady A.K. The very first thing, of course, is accountability. But I also think it's also important to get some exposure. And one of the, something that me, Ken Evans, and Patrina just recently was working on is something called Project 101. And pretty much what we were trying to do was, I mentioned the triangle of prosperity, and I broke down legislation and business and politics and just trying to help a clear understanding of where do we fit. One of the issues and one of the mistakes that we commonly make as us as a culture, us as a people, is that we'll see a black man and say, okay, well, we got a problem with you, Commissioner Weekly, because he's the only person that we can identify with, but the issues in Henderson, the issues in North Las Vegas, the issue is a state issue, it's a federal issue, it's a local issue. So in that, we want to be able, well, one of the major things that I've been trying to do is try to find some young, you know, I'm kind of on my J. Cole in the middle right now where I'm in between, but getting those like-minded kids who are able to, one, I believe, take advantage of social media. Social media has given us such a huge platform to be able to work on, but what I realized that the attention span is about that. So if we have this knowledge, it's great that we have it. You know, anybody who knows me from my community, I'm not following trends, but anything that we believe in as a community, we put our money, we put our time, we put our effort, we put our souls behind that. So if you're seeking for it, what I can tell you is that you can find it, and you will find it. And if you're willing and want to participate in this program that we're trying to establish, we're just really trying to identify from a young person perspective, what is it that's going to get their attention for them to be concerned and say, hey, I'm concerned about graffiti on the wall. Who do I go to for that? I'm concerned about an issue with the Clark County School Bus or the Clark County School District. You know, don't go talk to the person and don't go talk to gaming. You know, you have to know where you fit at in this whole spectrum of things. So I do think that accountability, but I do think that us as an older generation can help bring some resources to get that exposure to be able to utilize us as a tool.
Kyle, I know you have something to say. Hold on one second. Let me ask Tip. Tip, so do young people who are in Atlanta, are communities getting together just having this type of dialogue? And if so, is it really beneficial? How helpful is this? Or what's your perspective of what you see in here tonight?
I mean, not enough. You know, I think that anytime we have a collection of minds that are all coming together to try to solve issues and provide, you know, some direction, I think this is a teachable moment. You know what I mean? Just allowing people who have more information on certain subjects than you to shed light on things that you might not have a clear understanding on. But I do agree, you have to also take it a step further and use your phone for something other than watching videos. You know what I'm saying? I think that that's all of us, not just, you know, the person who asked the question, myself included. You know what I'm saying? Because y'all talking about a bunch of people I ain't never heard of. You know what I'm saying? But that's because this is Las Vegas politics. Are they doing it in Atlanta? I mean, man, yes, more so now than before, but change doesn't happen fast, and it don't come without sacrifice. You know, you have places like the Gathering Spot where there are town halls, and, you know, you might see young professionals or older executives or older politicians that you could ask questions that you don't know, but I think that it's not enough of this happening nationwide. We all need more of this. Everybody does.
And I want to, if we can get some volume on this, praise God, brother. All right, so listen, I want us to really begin. Thank you. All right. I want us to begin to really begin to identify this, because this is becoming a conversation that we are having a lot. How do we bridge the gaps between generations? And I want to attack that statement in a very serious way, and I mean this with everything that comes out of me. We have got to stop expecting older generations to chase us. It is literally, it bothers me. I'm one of the, at most times, I'm the only young preacher, young pastor in the rooms for a lot of these meetings and events and things. A lot of times, I'm one of the only young black men at a lot of different events and things. I'm not saying that black men don't attack my statement that way. What I am saying is what we need, and I'm telling y'all this on national TV, what we have got to do is put 2K down, put Instagram down, put Twitter down, and put whatever else you're doing down, and get up, come out, be a part. Because I will tell you personally, the older generation, they are looking for us. I am fighting for us, and I don't see us. It's a problem when we may not be actual peers, but based on our age group, when I have to plead and beg with people to come be a part of things of change, that's for you. And I really want us to begin to stress this. We're talking about change, and this is something that's even happening in church. What we got next. What do you have next to do if you don't know what's going on? You just have an opinion on a thumbnail that went down your timeline because you happen to like one person's political, views. And so what you have to do is you have to get up, you have to go out, you have to be a part. Since I was a little kid, I'm walking up to politicians. Hey man, I'm Kyle West, I'm Kelsey's son. Nice to meet you. And as I got old, I kept being involved. Whether it's Las Vegas, whether it's Baltimore, whether it's people I know in Atlanta, it doesn't matter. I'm trying my best to be involved because I'm realizing somebody has to fight for the change. And I'm asking my generation on this platform, come out, come be a part, and don't just do it when it seems like it's the popular thing to do, because Black Lives Matter, all this stuff, it's starting to not be as trendy as it was 2 weeks ago. Praise God. And so now what it's going to take is us keeping the fire going and joining together with the older generation and realizing the power of what we have, because they're not chasing us. And we shouldn't even chase them. It should be a collective effort.
Now, yeah. While I agree with Minister West, I also feel that there is a disconnect of engagement. You dig what I'm saying? I'll give you an example. If I pass you a picture of your kindergarten class, what's the first thing you're gonna do? You're gonna look for you, right? Okay, so we respond to things that directly affect us. So when politicians speak to us about things that affect us, I feel like the young people listen. Tell them you're gonna close the strip clubs and watch what happens. You dig what I'm saying? Like, speaking about things that, now it is the younger generation's obligation or responsibility to educate themselves. However, it's also it's our responsibility to be able to say things that matter to them so they can relate and engage them in a way that never has been done before. The last time we saw it was Obama. Everybody was okay, it's a black man running for president? Hell yeah, okay. He didn't never say what he was gonna do for us for real, but we all was engaged and galvanized because finally we had an opportunity to see a black man hold the highest position in the land. But now, man, I think with local politics, somebody out there, there's a local elected official that is running that has new progressive thoughts, ideas, and platforms. You just gotta find them. Just like you got to go out there and find your favorite rapper. You got a favorite new rapper. You tired of listening to this, you got to find somebody else. And you have to do the same thing in every area of your life, because I don't see why young people would allow older people who go to bed at 8, 9 o'clock to decide what they able to do at 3, 4 in the morning. You're not even up. We the ones out here, so we should be the ones who, I say this like I'm young as y'all, but right. But I'm just saying, like, so I feel like it has to be some engagement. It has to be something where the young people see that they're being represented and spoken to and told things that really matter to them.
Just to a small point that you just made, when we're talking about the young people and trying to get them engaged and understanding what part of policy reflects them directly impacts them. When we're talking about where you live, why you live there, why your teachers look the way that they do, why your books look the way that they do, why your mama gets paid what she gets paid, why your mom has to walk for 2 hours to get to a bus stop just so she can get to work. All of these things have to do with policy. It's always policy, and those things do affect you. When we're trying to get everybody together and understand, we're very special here in Las Vegas. We're different than other cities, and I'm proud to say, at any given moment, you can walk and accidentally brush up against an old school veteran in the game as far as what it looks like in our community here in Las Vegas. Easily, you go to Grits, you can go to Mario's, you can easily, if you are on the west side, you have to go out of your way to not find somebody who is about that life, old school. Right now in this very room, we have so many of our community leaders, our elders, who have been looking for these young people with passion to be able to take, because I get it. A lot of our elders, they don't want to pass the baton. They feel like they didn't get all their camera time yet. But you do have a lot of them who are holding the baton, and they like, I need somebody to take this from me, and they don't know where to find you. I would definitely encourage you all to understand that if you don't do anything else, every single month, the third Saturday of the month is the membership meeting for the NAACP Chapter 1111. It's held at Doolittle, 1950 North J Street, when we're not in a quarantine. Because we are in the middle of a quarantine, I strongly suggest that you all check out the Zoom. If you go to Power 88's page, if you go to the NAACP's page or NAACPLasVegas.com, all of this information is available to you on how you can get involved. If you are a college student, there is an NAACP on your campus. We even have high school NAACP. So I'm just saying, you all, it's not just about one side being in one place and another being in one place. To Tip's point, it's about us meeting each other halfway. But one group can't feel like they trying harder than the next. We all got to do it.
All right.
Excellent.
Bobby, I know all you guys out there want to ask a question, and Tip, because we're on television, we got about 4 minutes left before we go off TV.
That's fine. Whatever y'all want to do.
Yeah. So if you guys just want to hang out for a second here, because I know I got to get them back to the airport. We want to do something real special for you, man. Thank you for your time. I have my daughter come up, and she's going to present something to you on behalf of
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hey. How are you today?
Hey, how you doing?
So, on behalf of Clark County.
Let me get down.
I'm gonna come down here.
Okay.
So, on behalf of Clark County, we are proclaiming June 24th, 2020, Tip T.I. Harris Day in Las Vegas, Nevada.
I mean, I thank you humbly. I really do. I truly appreciate it. However, I will say, you guys deserve this award. The work that you're doing and the fact that you actually care enough to take your time out to come sit in here and listen and learn things that can bring about some more understanding so you can move with a more directed purpose. I think that is that's what deserves to be celebrated. These people up here on this panel as well, you've done far more for Vegas than I have. You know, I do appreciate it though. I'm humbled and flattered by it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And Tip, my daughter and I were watching T.I. and Tiny Family Hustle one night. And she even taught me how to get on Instagram. And I hit you up April 23rd.
You did?
Yeah, I did, because you were talking about human trafficking and you were addressing the young girls, and I thanked you for that. Well, and I sent you a shout out for addressing that issue. You didn't hit me back, but it's all good. But I want to thank Michael Gruber, my friend Michael Gruber. Michael is so cool. Michael got Tip on the phone. Michael, come out here and just take a bow for me, man. Want to thank Mike. Mike said, Lawrence, you want me to call him? I said, yeah, I got a few things I want to say to him. And we were sitting in Jeff's restaurant, Sugar Daddy's, and got a chance to talk to you, man. But on April 23rd, I just said, man, I'm proud of you. We get the chance to go to Dre's and hang out. I know Mike owns Dre's, and my boy Brian, I'm not sure where he is. We get to hang out at Dre's and come out and see you. But I told you, I said, man, next time you're in Vegas, thank you so much for coming to see us. And not only that, Tip, I'm going to give you a little key to the strip. How about that? This is the first and last key I get to give as a county commissioner. So There you go. You got your own official key to the Las Vegas Strip here in Las Vegas, man. Thank you so very much.
You guys are far too kind. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Love and respect. And y'all continue to ask the questions, get the answers, and move with purpose and direction in your life. And I salute and respect each and every last one of you for what you're doing right now, young and old. Love.
Before we go, Devin, you have anything in closing you want to share?
One tip, thanks for coming to my city, man. We appreciate you, nothing but love and respect. I want to thank all of the leaders, everybody that put in a lot of work, a lot of hard effort, all of our business owners, my girl Bobby, my Native Son Spelling Bee crew I see out there, all the legislators out there, just the community leaders. You're doing a wonderful job. We got a lot of work to do ahead of us. Love and peace.
Okay. Laura?
Yeah, thank you for calling us all together. Thank you for being here, and thank you everyone for listening and everyone who's watching. I think everything that we need is right here in our community, and we just need to reach out to each other and support each other and know that a better world is possible, and we are winning. We just need to keep going.
Hey, Laura, what can you say to these young people about getting engaged? How do they get involved with Plan? How do you get the Devin Brooks and that fire that we hear from Kyle West and a lot of these young entrepreneurs that's in the room? What do we do to galvanize that to make sure that there is some impact at the end of the day?
So if you want to get involved with PLAN, the Progressive Leadership Alliance in Nevada, we're a coalition of other organizations, and we work with a lot of different people. You can hit us up on social media. Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter is planevada.org, and send us a message. If you want to dive deep into ending mass incarceration and abolishing the police, hit up groups like Mass Liberation Project, hit up things like Black Lives Matter, UNLV. There's a lot of people. I know that we want to take the action from online to offline, but sometimes you can just start with the connection of just seeing a group or somebody saying something that you really jive with and just hit them up like you did with TI. Just send them a message. And I know definitely with PLAN, we will respond back to you and connect you or get you up with our team and helping us out.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Before we go with the gaming and the entertainment nightlife, we got a number of promoters that's in the room, and they upset. I hear from a lot of them. They try to bring a TI to Las Vegas. They try to bring a whomever to Las Vegas, a lot of our hottest rappers. But they get shut down. But yet some of our big resorts can bring the same people to Las Vegas and make boatloads of money. How does that work? So that's another question for you. Hold on, we're going to come back to that one, but I want you to respond to that.
Quite the conundrum.
Yeah. All right. So let me shut this down. But, Bobby, I'm going to bring you up, but I want to thank everybody. Tip, say hello to Classic Jewel for me. Send a shout-out to Classic Jewel, if you don't mind.
Classic Jewel?
Classic Jewel. That's one of our black-owned businesses in the community.
One time for Classic Jewel.
Well, there you go. Classic Jewel. There you go.
Again, man, I can't thank you guys enough. I appreciate your time and your attention, man. If I have anything to say in closing, I think that I heard Lady A.K. say this, and I agree wholeheartedly. Everyone has a place and a purpose in their movement. All of them ain't the same, but everybody has something that they can do and contribute that will push the movement forward and ultimately bring about some level of change. And it takes us collectively, our collective effort, to really, really move mountains. If everybody does a little, no one has to do a lot. So I thank you all.
Yeah, give a big round of applause, please. Hold on, Lady A.K. You coming. We coming to you. We just want to say thank you because I got to turn my TV camera off. Thank y'all. Y'all give a big round of applause, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, live streaming.